Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am your co-host, Justin Wallace. With me is my cousin, co-host, Kyle Lindsay. We give you the upside info needed to win your league year over year. Today, we are talking running back rankings. Last episode, which was our first ever of the Upside podcast, we discussed RB1s, and today we're going to be discussing RB2s. Maybe who in this group will finish as an RB1? Kyle, what do you got?
First thing we like to start off with is a little bit of NFL news.
Absolutely.
So some random news of the week is that NFL teams are able to reopen their facilities with government okay. So the league is allowing that to occur. Several teams are in states that are going to let that happen. And several teams are in states where they're talking that, they're not going to be opening until August or September or whatever. So yeah, it's become a complicated issue. I think you're going to see some teams leave the state that they're usually going to participate in the league in, and they're going to try to consolidate and share fields somewhere or something. I think that's what's going to ultimately happen. I think the Packers are already opened back up or about to. Because Wisconsin's Supreme Court went ahead and struck down any of that stuff. So, it's going to be a question of whether or not anybody's able to get into regular season shape. But one man that we already know is in regular season shape and full form is our friend Ryan Fitzmagic. This is amazing. Every time that you see this guy, it just gets better and better. It's like he's I don't know, it's perfect. It's exactly what you imagine.
He's a gift from above when it comes to good old Fitzmagic.
Yeah, and so good old Florida boy, right? Like basically that's what it boils down to. Right. And so, like, speaking of Florida quarterbacks and whatever is in the water down there, right? What do you have in our Tom Brady affair of the day?
Right. It feels like this might turn into a Tom Brady somewhat bashing podcast, but it's really easy to do. So there was an article that came out by Forbes here this week, and Brady's releasing what he calls immunity vitamins. So
like you do.
Yeah, like you do. I mean, it's one of those things where the person that was kind of quoted in this article, he's a medical toxicologist. I mean, he literally said he has a number of concerns. Like, the biggest one is the timing of you are releasing immunity vitamins while we're going through this pandemic. I mean, granted, he doesn't mention anything about coronavirus or anything like that, but it's like, this is just not the best timing to kind of pump out that TB12 kind of products. But, maybe he's just a...
Yeah, TB on TB infecting you with TB, right?
Well, that's all this stuff. I mean, with the the B&E walking into the wrong place, going to the park and telling you had to go. I mean, who knows what's going on down there? It is Florida, though.
Yeah, I think that's what it boils down to, is that the Florida gets in you rather than you getting in Florida. So,
exactly.
That's kind of where I think it falls.
Yeah. Well, those are our kind of random fantasy news or NFL news of the week right there. And next up, we're going to talk about a little bit of over under the RB edition. So what's your first one you got, Kyle?
So over or under 2.5 rookie running backs in the top 24 at the end of the year. Top 24 running backs at the end of the year. What do you have? 2.5 over or under?
Well, based off of last year, we had 3 last year. Josh Jacobs, he finished 14th. Miles Sanders, 15th, and David Montgomery, 22. So that gives you an idea of what it was last year. I am actually going to go with the over on this one. So I'm going to say 3 or more. And my guess, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, and DeAndre Swift are my 3 that I think could be in that top 24. You may hear those names later on in this episode, but I still think it's going to be close. What do you think on that?
I think it's going to be the over. I think we're going to hit the over on this. Like you mentioned, there were 3 last year. I think that there were several guys who fell into really good positions this year. Last year, the way I saw it going into the season, I thought that there were 1 or 2 that were going to really, fall into that category. I had Josh Jacobs in the second round is like where I thought he should be drafted
Right.
in fantasy. So he wasn't surprising. Miles Sanders, he was going fourth through sixth round. So I think for some people that's probably a little surprising that he finished in the top. So I think this year there's a few guys with better opportunities. So what do you have for an over-under here?
So the next one was a guy that actually finished in the top 24 last year, running backs as a rookie, David Montgomery, over under 1,000 yards rushing this year. He had 889 last year, just for reference, Kyle.
Yeah. So it's a Bears question, right? So that's a tough one right now. I think that Nagy really wants to hide Trubisky's faults a little bit. They've got
Truth
Foles. Biscuit? Yeah, Trubisky. They've got Foles. So, I think Foles is going to end up winning this job. Mm-hmm. And I trust Foles to run the offense better. Montgomery started to come on a little bit better. He was getting a little bit more dynamic as the year went on last year. So I would imagine that he's going to get more carries.
Yeah.
I think that offense, Nagy wants to run more plays just in general. And so I think the opportunity is just going to grow for Montgomery there. So I do have him over 1,000 yards. Not a whole lot over, but over 1,000 yards.
I'm going to make it easy on you. I'm going to go with the over as well on this, basically off of what you just said. He showed some potential in his rookie year.
It's no fun when we agree on everything.
Well, we definitely won't do that all the time. Trust me. I think, this list that we might that we're going to talk about when we go through our rankings, we have some differences on the rankings between each other compared to the composites. So, what do we got next?
So, where are we at on Austin Eckler? Over or under 90 catches? What do you got? He had 92 last year.
92
on 108 targets. On 108 targets. That's really
pretty
not
dang efficient.
Well, you want to talk about efficiency. 993 yards off of 92 catches.
As a running back, that's pretty good.
That's amazing is what that is. So we're not going to ask the tough question of whether he's going to sustain the yards. We're going to ask the tough question of whether or not he's going to get more or fewer catches. 90.
So I'm actually going to go under. And bear with me here, Kyle. The reason why I think is there's two QBs there, Tyrod Taylor, and they drafted Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor is kind of known as he wants to chuck the ball, and I think he's going to be the starter for most of the year while they, let Herbert sit and kind of learn how to play the QB in the NFL. So I'm going to go under. I think Eckler's touches are actually going to go up, but I think they're going to design some more runs for Eckler. So that's why I'm going to go under. I just think it's because Phillip Rivers loves to throw down those checkdowns, and he's gone. So What do you think?
That's exactly where I was going to go with it.
Okay.
I think he's going to hit the under here. I do see a lot more opportunity for him. I mean, there's a giant hole of vacated touches in the offense now, but the opportunity that's presented to him is more rushing opportunity, not necessarily receiving opportunity. And they drafted a guy further back in the draft who can catch the ball and is a little bit more of an elusive back. So I think that the opportunity he's going to lose with him is going to be the catches. And you hit on it perfectly. Phillip Rivers is the check down king. I mean, it's escalated the last 3 years where he went from 28 to 29 to 30% of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage, and they weren't necessarily the first read, right? So he's not throwing screen passes. He's checking down all the time. So I think Eckler really benefited from that. But, at the same time, I think that offense is going to understand where their strength is. And one of their strengths is getting the ball to Eckler in space. That's becoming the norm in the NFL. So while I've got him under 90 catches, I don't have him dramatically under 90 catches because I think his snap opportunity is going to go up. He started only eight games last year. He's going to start 16 if he stays healthy. So, he could hit the over just by virtue of playing more, but I think he's going to be under it, but not by much.
Yep. Right there with you.
All right. So we can go ahead and jump right into our rankings here. We're going to hit running backs 13 through 24 on our list. So we're looking at RB2. These are guys that you're still going to draft high in your draft. As always, when we're talking about our rankings, we default to non-PPR leagues, 12-team leagues, and leagues that are operating in weeks 1 through 16, with the final 2 to 3 weeks being 13, 14, or 14, 15, and 16 being playoff style weeks. So we're not looking at week 17. We're not incorporating that number. We're also not going to incorporate PPR into our rankings at this point. So
at this point,
guys like Eckler in a ranking here, he's going to fall down the board a little bit. In a PPR, he might actually be up a little higher than where we have him. So just understand from that perspective where we're coming from, what we're talking about. And at number 13, coming in hot and heavy, we've got the rookie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This is one of the guys I was talking about. He fell into the perfect situation. And then Andy Reid said, we like Damian Harris. It's like, well, yeah, but you drafted a first-round running back, Andy. I mean, we get it, okay? But the odds of him sitting Clyde Edwards-Helaire like they sat Patrick Mahomes, Reid tends to think his first-rounders are worth something. It's very clear.
Right.
So he's fallen into a great situation, and I absolutely see him supplanting Damian Harris in the long run. He's not a big guy. He's not huge as far as stature.
Height-wise?
He is, height-wise, he's not. And I was looking at what you were writing on his notes and everything, and I had the same comparison, which was the old bowling ball, Maurice Jones-Drew, right? He's taller than Maurice Jones-Drew, if I remember correctly.
Maybe like an inch, though. I mean, it's not by much.
Maybe, but he is a little bit smaller. But like as MJD stayed in his career, his thighs got bigger and bigger. Like this is about as thick as his thighs got. I mean, that man was like pure muscle.
Absolutely.
So Helaire is or Edwards-Helaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Eclair is, he's 5'7", 207 pounds. He's not the fastest guy, but he is he's quick. He's got quick moves. He's not fast. He's a good pass catcher. That's another thing. So what we're looking at is a guy who's falling into a really good situation. It's an offense that's kind of designed for a guy like him. He doesn't have to be the fastest guy because everybody else on the team is super freaking fast. It's like ridiculous. They're just going out and
4.3 speed everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they just go out and they're like, did you qualify for the Olympic sprinting team? Sure, you can play on our team too. So he's got a real chance to become a starter in a very high-powered offense that has been without a premier full-time running back since they lost Kareem Hunt. I think they're starved for a guy just like this, and so I think he's keyed for a great opportunity. So we've got him sitting there at 13. You got any thoughts on him?
Yeah. I my rank for him was number 17. I do see that might fluctuate a little bit. It might get closer to that composite rank of 13, but I mean, you hit it quite a bit there. I mean, he was the first running back off the board. I mean, in this year's NFL draft, he's only one in the first round. So that kind of tell you a little bit of, about his skill. He may not have breakaway speed, like you said. I mean, he had a 4.6 40 in the combine, but he has elite level elusiveness, man. And yeah, you said MJD, a more recent comp maybe would be Devin Singletary of the Bills. So it's one of those things where the old Edwards-Helaire, I like that now. I'm going to use that as Eclair. I like that. I'm going to use that from now on.
The donut.
The donut. He has. I mean, he's eating like one. I can see that, but he has the potential of being a 3-down back. I mean, like you said, he's dang good at catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, the presence of Damian Williams might hurt some of his production at the beginning of the year, but I feel like Andy Reid, even though he loves Damian Williams, I think there's just no way for him to keep him back off the sidelines and getting CEH in there. So yeah, I think he'll have the job before their bye week. So
okay, so we talked about a physical comparable.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody you think would be like a production comparable? Anybody in the league that you think? I mean, what if you had to guess? I mean, you based on his a little bit slower speed, but catching ability, and just the mere fact that he fits this offense so well. Is there anyone that you think he compares straight out to? I mean, he's not as fast as Eckler, but he's got kind of a similar skill set.
Yeah.
He's a little bit bigger. Gosh, who else would? I mean, I don't know.
I
Maybe
would,
somebody like Devin Singletary, but Singletary's a little faster too. So
yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Like he's a little bit like the stockiness of a Mark
mhm.
Ingram,
Yeah,
if he could catch the ball. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because Mark Ingram doesn't really catch the ball that well. He can. Clyde
yeah.
Edwards-Helaire. So I would say a faster Mark Ingram, and
Okay.
that could be a dang good career right there. So
Yeah.
moving off of him, we're going to number 14, Kenyon Drake out of Arizona. Kenyon was kind of in a wasteland that is known as the Miami backfield before he was traded to Arizona. So when he was traded there from his week 9 to 16, he was the fifth best running back, averaging 16.7 points per game. So when he was with Miami last year, when he was playing with them, only 5.5 points. So talk about a nice little, change of scenery for a guy. He does return to Arizona as the clear feature back. I mean, he has Chase Edmonds behind him. That's the only person really of note. There is some risk as he never really performed in Miami, even though the competition wasn't really the highest there. But we've mentioned before, Adam Gase hates running backs, and he was the coach there for a few years. So the Cardinals should be better than last year as well. Another year of Kyler Murray and a huge addition of DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I do think he will be a high-end RB2 with considerable upside.
Yeah.
So I have him as my number 13. What do you got on Kenyon Drake?
Well, let me double check here where I have him actually in my ranking.
Yeah.
I've got him at 17.
Okay.
Which is crazy because
So
I'm also the one who said that he'll finish in the top 5 as a kind of a gag, right?
maybe you did it as that's a big gap.
It
Maybe
is a
that's what.
really big gap, but I could see it happening.
Yeah.
It potentially, there's a few factors that he's got going in his favor from what I see. He played 8 games in Arizona. He started all of them. He didn't have any threat to his volume. He got 123 carries in 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
He had 643 yards, decent production there, and
Yeah.
he had eight TDs, all of them rushing, no receiving TDs.
Really?
Okay, so 8 TDs, 8 games, 643 yards. He's averaging, I mean, that's roughly like 85 yards, 85 yards, right? That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And then you add to that they went and they got an offensive tackle in the draft. Now they say that's to protect Kyler Murray, right? Because they want to throw the ball a little bit more, which is absolutely true. But it's only going to help in the run game. So I think that's going to be beneficial for him. The only knock that I see is that he did not increase his pass work going from Miami to Arizona. And in a pass-heavy offense, that's a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't trust him to know the passing game as well as they want him to. So maybe going into year 2, there'll be a change with that.
Yeah.
But his numbers in 6 games playing in Miami for receiving and targets and all of that were the same as 8 games in Arizona. So I would like to see that increase, and that's why I've got him at 17. If he were to increase those numbers, if the offense were to, actually fall his way on the passing game so that he is a 3-down back, then I could see him easily hanging up where we've got him, which is, 14, somewhere between 12 to 14. And if everything goes his way, crazy. He could end up as a RB1, but it could potentially happen. And there's some Kenyon Drake truthers out there. Jim in our league is an absolute Kenyon Drake truther.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, he's had him for a while.
So he's had the Drake fever.
Oh yeah,
not the Canadian Drake, just this guy.
Yeah, different Drake.
Yeah.
All right. So what we've got at number 15 is Austin Eckler. We've already hit on him a little bit. We talked about it. He only started 8 games in 2019. I see that jumping up. If anybody in this first group is in the wrong spot, it's Austin Eckler as far as I'm concerned. So we've got him at 15 on our composite ranking. And I have Austin Eckler at 20. And so that's probably why he's back.
Yeah.
And that's probably one that's going to change over time as teams start practicing and actually demonstrating what's going to happen going forward. So I could easily see Austin Eckler sneaking into RB1 territory, the front end of RB2 territory, that sort of thing. The concern that I have for him is that they did draft a really decently fast running back. 4.49 940. It's
Yeah.
Josh Kelly. He could just be that Gordon replacement, and like we were talking earlier, that's production that's now not accounted for. It's vacated touches,
Yeah.
and Eckler's going to get some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would look for his averages to start dropping. I would also look for that offense to stagnate a little bit, just because you've got different QBs. It's not Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers, for all of his foibles, is a solid QB still. So. So while I think that Eckler is in line for an increase in game time and touches, I can see his numbers kind of not really increasing commensurately.
Right.
So that's what I've got. What do you have on Eckler?
Pretty similar. I mean, Eckler, he finished as the 8th best running back in fantasy football last year. I mean, he averaged 13.9 points per game. Now
he was dominant while Gordon was gone.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he does lose Phillip Rivers. I mean, he'd love to throw him the ball, and yes, he does. You know, he has more value in a PPR league, but he still has pretty dang valuable based off his ranking that you see here. But he's also not continuing with Melvin Gordon. He signed with Denver. Like you mentioned, when Gordon was out, I mean, it's a small sample size as weeks 1 through 4. He was the 4th best running back, and he averaged 18.1 points per game non-PPR. So I think he will finish around 200 carries, which would be a decent increase. I think it's about 70 more carries than the previous year. But that should kind of like help counteract his potential lack of receptions that we may see a drop in that we just mentioned about in the over-under section. So in college.
Do you see his rush yards per attempt going up or down? I mean, he was at 4.22 last year. He's going to go up or down with this increase in volume. I agree. He's going to get more than the 132 touches.
That is a tough one. The line for the Chargers has always been kind of a these last couple of years, but they did bring in a new offensive guard, Trey Turner from Carolina. So I do think that could help potentially, maybe keep his average the same or maybe increase it just a little bit. I mean, he was from a smaller school. He went to Western State, which I couldn't tell you what state that's actually in because we don't have a Western State, but he had 200 plus carries every year except his freshman year. So yes, there's a huge difference in competition, but he has shown that he can do 200 plus carries.
Yeah.
So he does that, catches 60 to 70 balls, throw in some touchdowns. He could outperform this number 15th rank. And yes, like you said, this is our biggest difference. I had him 11, you had him 20. Like I said, it might come back down to the mean a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But
I mean, a concern I have I want to add a little bit here.
Oh, absolutely.
His receiving touchdowns, he had 8. Rush touchdowns, he had 3. So while his rushing attempts are obviously going to go up with the absence of Melvin Gordon, I see him regressing a little bit in the passing in the receiving game because I think that his yards per reception were just astronomical. It was, 10.8 yards per reception almost. And so that's a lot. I don't see him getting he could potentially get 8 receiving touchdowns, but that's quite a lot.
And it's quite a bit.
And I would see him to lose a few of those and gain some rushing TDs. So he might not see any regression overall, but I would see his receiving yardage regressing a little bit.
So do you think he does, get maybe a few more of those goal line carries that were going to Melvin Gordon that maybe could go to him? Or do you see Justin Jackson? Because he's still there. We haven't talked about him. Justin Jackson's still there, but he's kind of just a guy. And then you talked about Josh Kelly. I think he was out of UCLA. So it's like, he could see an increase in, goal line carries, but, the typical, body size, he's not a typical goal line carry kind of guy, but like I said, you just never know. So you could see, like you said, a little bit of drop here, a little increase here. And I think that's why we kind of have him right where we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have him a little bit back because I do think that he's going to miss out a little bit on that still.
Yeah.
And I see too many concerns with that offense overall, not because of him or any particular reason,
he's good.
General or any specific reason. I see a general problem just because of the QB issue in my mind.
Yeah.
It's a new QB no matter which one you start.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. So up next, number 16, Le'Veon Bell for the New York Jets. Despite, him being kind of rather ineffective with his touches, he still received a pretty high volume of those touches. So, it's one of those things where is it because of his skill or because of the offensive line? So, I mean, last year he only averaged 3.2 yards per carry and right at about 7 yards per catch, respectively. So, I mean, that's a large decrease from his career averages of 4.2 yards per carry and 8.2 yards per catch. So, with all that said, they did overhaul, the Jets did, their offensive line, multiple signings across the line. They drafted the mammoth Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. I mean, that guy is massive. So I would imagine he could open up some holes. So they did bring in Frank Gore, but I mean, what is he, like 50 now? So I think he still is going to receive that workhorse type snap percentage. He was at 76% last year. I think that's going to kind of continue. I think he does actually improve his finish from 21. And I see him right here in the middle as a decent RB2 for 2020. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's an RB2.
Yeah.
That's where he's most appropriate. We've got him at our composites. Got him at where we at 16.
16. Yep.
I think I've got him a lot worse than that, maybe. Or
actually, I do. You actually have him a lot.
I actually
better.
have him up at 10, but that's because I can't imagine he'll probably fall out of there for me.
Yeah.
In our last podcast, I said that I thought that there were a few guys at the back end of RB1 who would fall out, and a few guys at the top of RB2 who would be the best candidates to jump in on that.
This is probably
and he's one of my cautionary instances, and it's because he had such a high volume of carries last year and very low production out of it. I mean, he was getting just over 3.2 yards a carry, and that's not great at all by any means for a guy who's getting that level of carries. I mean, I would look to see him try to bounce back. They had Darnold out for a good amount of last year, but the rush TDs were at 3 for the year, and 1 receiving TD. And if I remember correctly, the receiving TD came first few weeks of the season, and then there was a drought, just a drought. It was like he was on a milk carton, man. It was bad. So I think that his yards are going to go up. Do not look for his rush attempts or targets to go up. It all falls on Adam Gase in the end. While the offensive line might have improved, it boils down to Adam Gase's play calling, and I don't get it because he knew how to use guys in Chicago, right? Like, arguably as the offensive coordinator there, he effectively used running backs. He did not do that in Miami, and he has not done that in New York. So maybe it wasn't him in Chicago that was making that happen. I don't know. So we'll wait to see what's going to happen with that. But it's one of those ones that's up. For me, it's up in the air as to where that's going to end up falling. So you've already talked about Lev, right?
Yeah. Number 17.
17, we've got our friend Chris Carson.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of those like mythological characters or something. Like, he has a whole cult behind him, right? People who just believe wholeheartedly that if Chris Carson could stay healthy and get the ball all the time, then he would be just great, and that Rashad Penny needs to disappear.
I think you have a brother that
we know somebody who thinks that. So I don't necessarily disagree, and Seattle wants to run the ball. That's what they want to do. They're designed to run the ball, and Russell Wilson is just supposed to basically protect it. But Russell Wilson's too damn good for the offense to work that way. I don't think I've ever drafted Russell Wilson or had him on one of my teams, but it's not because I don't think he's good. I think that the price has always been too expensive. Like, the difference in points between him and somebody 6 places behind him is not significant enough to pay up for him. And so that's why he doesn't find his way onto my team. So that's my problem with Chris Carson. It always is.
Yeah.
That I think that the best player on that team is Russell Wilson. The best guy behind the line of scrimmage is Russell Wilson.
Right.
And Chris Carson he's just not been able to stay healthy. He's not been able to, get the production that he's supposed to have. I mean, last year he dropped the ball 7 times. As a running back, that's unacceptable. He only lost 4 of them, but you can't drop it 7 times.
Nope.
His TD production, I wouldn't expect to change a whole lot. He could get some more rush TDs. I wouldn't expect any more passing TDs. He had 2 last year in receiving. Yeah. So, 7 rush TDs. I could see that going up a little bit. I could see him hovering somewhere a bit around 10 to 12 total touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't expect much more out of him. He's not going to lead the league in touchdowns. His yards were, despite all the fumbles, his yards were still pretty high. His volume, his touch volume is there. Even though he was fighting at points with Rashad Penny for touches, it really wasn't breaking him down. He still got 278 touches. And they're talking about Rashad Penny, about whether or not he's going to start this year. He's going to, or not start, but be available at the start of the year. I don't know what to believe there, but either way, I still have no fear that Rashad Penny is going to take the starting job away from Chris Carson. So I would suggest that Chris Carson is fine to draft at this point in where we have him. So, he's falling where? Where is he falling in drafts? He's going 301, so first pick, 3rd round. That's a little high for where I would want him, but it's not terrible. If you get him as your 2nd running back, that's pretty good. You've got a guy who's leading the backfield. So
absolutely. And that's basically what you just said. He does return as that lead back for the Seahawks. He did suffer a fractured hip in Week 16 and then ended up missing the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. Somehow, a fractured hip doesn't mean you have to get surgery. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. All reports say he'll be ready for the start of the season. So you mentioned Rashad Penny. The same cannot be said for him. I mean, there's rumors that it wasn't just a torn ACL; it might have been some more in there. So there's some rumors that he might not be ready. So you're not really fighting too much when it comes to who's behind him. The Seahawks did draft a running back in the 4th round, DJ Dallas, but Carson still has the clear advantage to lead the backfield. He finished as the number 9 running back last year, and even with his slightly limited pass catching abilities, it did go up last year, but it's still not where you want it to be for a guy that you want to draft, let's say in the first pick of the 3rd round. So we project him to be a solid RB2 with maybe potential for more, just as long as they don't bring back Mr. Skittles, Marshawn Lynch. So, I mean, if they bring him back, I mean, you got to drop it just a little bit. I mean, that is a high possibility if Rashad Penny's not available. I mean,
it is, yeah.
Lynch looked fine. I mean, you throw him out there for 20% of the snaps. That's still a decent amount of volume that you're taking away from Chris Carson. So maybe less times you put the ball on the field. So
Marshawn Lynch is available. Spoiler alert! His character was killed off of Westworld, so he is available. So it could happen. I think there's been some rumors. I think that there's been some hint at it. So
absolutely. All righty. So up next, number 18 for our composite rankings, we have Melvin Gordon. We kind of mentioned his name before. He is now with the Denver Broncos. The Chargers decided to kind of let him go and walk and sign with the Broncos to presumably be their lead back, but Philip Lindsay is still there. I mean, Philip Lindsay, he's greatly outperformed his undrafted pedigree. He's turned in quite a career so far. So, I mean, Gordon does project to get the lion's share of the work in a run-heavy offense. They have second-year QB Drew Lock. I'm going to assume that they want to run the ball, even with the second-year QB. So, I mean, when Gordon did come back last year from his holdout, so that was, I think, week 5 was his first week. I mean, he ended up finishing 17th best running back in non-PPR, and that was splitting work with Austin Eckler. So, we haven't finished.
He was fighting for value. So
we haven't finished right around the same this year, splitting work with Philip Lindsay, and I feel like the skill set between Philip Lindsay and Austin Eckler is not probably too far off. So I think we kind of have him right in line with what he did last year, and I'd like to hear what you think.
Yeah, so I've got him right at 18, right where we've got him.
We both have him. Yeah, wow. Both. We do agree. Winning?
Yeah. So generally, he is sitting 11th in like ADP. He's sitting 11th as like the 11th RB off the board.
Yeah.
He's going at 2.1 or 210. So 10th pick, second round.
It's rich.
That is too high for me there. So I'm not taking Melvin Gordon in the second round. He's not like, I will pass on him in the second round and take a wide receiver if I've already got a solid bell cow back. And if I was in the back of the first round and I'm taking a wide receiver who's premier, then I'm looking for better value at my running back spot in the second round.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon. There's too many questions there for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that Philip Lindsay actually is in decline for that offense. I think he compares to Eckler.
Yeah.
I don't think he competes with Eckler. That's the problem.
I
Like
gotcha.
if I'm looking for a comparable for Eckler, I would say Aaron Jones made the argument last year.
Right.
So although Aaron Jones, I mean, yeah, if they do, going back to Eckler, if they do what they did with Aaron Jones to Eckler, then all day I'm on Eckler.
All right.
He is an RB1.
Yeah, all day.
Oh yeah. But as far as Melvin Gordon, I think he's going to get the lion's share of the carries. He's not going to compete for all of the work, but he's going to lose third down to Philip Lindsay a good deal. There's nothing about Philip Lindsay that strikes you as like outstanding.
Right.
And last year, he seemed to just be moving through mud. So if he can improve that, get whatever he lost a little bit last year, if he can get it back, then, I would say he's going to steal third down from Melvin Gordon. And that's the point that detracts a little bit. So that's why, to me, 10th pick of the second round, I'm not taking Melvin Gordon. I'll take him in the back of the third round.
That would be good value.
Yeah. And if you're taking in the back of the third round, then, that means that you've got probably a pretty decent running back one already.
Yep.
And you're taking a little bit of a gamble, a little bit less of a certainty there, but you've probably got a pretty good amount of like certainty that he's going to be fine. So I take him in that area, but not earlier. All right, jumping ahead here.
Yep. Number 19.
Number 19, Devin Singletary. So Devin Singletary last year, just kind of for me was, I don't know. I just didn't see him. I felt like he was around and you heard, and it seemed like he was having a good year.
There's whispers.
But yeah, it was like it wasn't apparent. And now that might just be because he was on the Bills, and the Bills for whatever reason are treated like the Dolphins were last year. It's like they're not anemic entirely. Daniel Jones is gonna, or not Daniel Jones. I'm sorry.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is going to be solid there. He's a great running quarterback. His runs are a little bit more scrambled than you would want out of a good running quarterback. It's not like they're calling runs for him like they do for Lamar Jackson. So that's a little bit of like, why is this offense just not showing up? His number one competition here, Singletary, for rushes is pretty much going to be Josh Allen. The guy who beat him out on rush attempts last year is gone. The eternal one, Frank Gore. So there's a lot of vacated touches in that offense.
Well, they did draft Zach Moss out of Utah in the third round.
Yeah, but I don't see him supplanting Singletary, who was a high draft pick for them as well, very recently as well. And you can't argue with him getting 5 yards a carry.
No.
You got to give the ball to that guy more. I mean, why does he get fewer carries than the guy getting 3.6? Right?
The name?
Yeah, it's the name. And we don't want you to die from running into a line of defensive men repeatedly, He's got a little bit of pass work. So I would hope to see that increase.
Yeah.
As they try to preserve Josh Allen a little bit more, get him to check down and throw down a little bit more. call some design plays to the running back that are passes.
Yeah.
So I would look for that to increase. I would also look for his rushing totals, rushing touchdown totals to increase. He only had 2 last year. He had 2 receiving touchdowns last year. So I'm going to look for that to jump up. So I think that he could rise up the board there. He's a little bit of a sleeper in that respect. Right now, we've got him at 19. I know that you and I are a little bit different from one another on there. He's showing up as the 16th guy off the board, and he's going in the back or the middle of the 3rd round right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take him happily in the 3rd round, I think. And I think it's a stretch to take him in the 2nd round. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if that turned out to be the true value in the end. So I think the 3rd round's a good value for him right now. Yeah. So that's where I've got him.
Yeah. I mean, we're a little off on our ranks together. Like composite 19. I have him at 21, but that could change. I had some shares in Devin Singletary last year, so I like him. I mean, not too much to hate about him. I mean, he's 2nd-year pro. He returns. He is presumed to be the feature back. Frank Gore's gone. He's with the Jets. Singletary he kind of dealt with some hamstring issues last year. That's what kind of hurt him for the beginning of the year. I mentioned they did draft Zach Moss out of Utah in the 3rd round, so it kind of muddles a little bit of his outlook. It's another one of those guys that may not have like breakaway speed, like number wise, but he just has that elusiveness, and somehow he can break it still, even though his numbers don't say it when it comes to like combine. But goal line work maybe.
Yeah, there's just something about him that.
It's just something about him. He can get through.
Successful. Yeah, he's quietly
successful. He can get through the line. So, goal line work, that may limit some of his touchdown potential, just kind of like what happened last year. I mean, Josh Allen is he's a top tier fantastic QB TD rushing vulture. Try to get that
that's
out 5
the problem.
times fast.
Yeah, he's a TD vulture.
He's not an elite quarterback yet, but when it comes to TD rushing vulture, he's one of the best. So, and Moss projects to get maybe some of that goal line work just based off his skills and size. I mean, he's a big guy. So, but if he can get over 200 carries, Singletary, and let's say 8 total touchdowns with some catches thrown in there, I mean, he can make us look stupid at having him at 19 so early. I mean,
like I said, I could see him rising up the board. And
absolutely
being a 2nd round value. So taking him in the 3rd is not terrible.
No, not at all. So, I mean, I think we kind of agree on him. We once we come back around and do this one again, he may be flirting with that RB1 status whenever we go again. So
he's one of those guys who could. I wouldn't be surprised by week 4 to see him kind of jump up there and get there.
Absolutely.
It could happen. So, it kind of depends on his schedule, and I haven't statted them out yet, so I don't know exactly what their schedule is, but starting of the season, if it's a tough road against defense to start the season, then I would look at him as a potential buy low candidate.
Yeah.
That division has some decent defense. He's on one of the teams that has a pretty good defense in that division, so you have that going for you there. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, up next at number 20, we have James Conner of the Steelers. I mean, there's no doubt, like when Conner is on the field, he can be one of the best running backs in this league. It's just durability has been the concern with him. When he was healthy last year, mainly like weeks 1 through 8, he was the 12th best running back in fantasy. So he has that potential, but it's starting to get kind of crowded. There are some few options in the backfield. You got Jalen Samuels. He's kind of a little bit of a do-it-all kind of guy, like Swiss Army knife. Jalen Samuel is Benny Snell. I mean, he's still
Samuels was a tight end,
right?
At one point
in fantasy,
right?
at one point,
yeah, fantasy, yeah.
Benny Snell. He's a guy there. He's done some stuff. I mean, he's only like entering his 2nd or 3rd year, and then they drafted Anthony McFarland Jr. So I mean, that's 4 mouths to feed potentially in the backfield. But
yeah.
Here's the thing. You could be getting a healthy Ben Roethlisberger back. I think that could actually help Connor's fantasy outlook. I assume the Steelers will kind of watch his snaps because of the durability issue. But, I mean, if he gets that 2-down back work, goal line work, I mean, this could be a bounce-back year if he somehow stays healthy. So I have him at 19, composite 20. So right there, what you got on James Conner?
Um, you know, I think that the return of Ben Roethlisberger is going to benefit him.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I think that I think it's only going to help him, really, and that's kind of why he had a little bit of a tougher year last year, in my opinion. It wasn't the health issue for me. He's classically just seems to always have some sort of injury that he's dealing with, and so there is that concern there. I've got him a lot farther back than this, or not a lot farther. I've got him at 22. So not terribly off from where we are right now.
Right.
He's going in the middle of the third round, 17th overall, running back off the board, but he's going in the middle of the third round, middle back, third round, 8th position.
Okay.
So not such a terribly high price, not a terrible high price to pay for him. But my concern with him is that he was getting the same touch count as Benny Snell or Jalen Samuels last year. One of the two of them had nearly as many. It was Benny Snell had nearly as many touches in the rush game as him. He was only 8 behind him. And I don't think it was injury related. The production was the same in the end too. Mm-hmm. Like the yards per carry was roughly the same between the two of them. So I do have a fear that he's going to start losing touches, that this is becoming an actual running back by committee. I think Ben Roethlisberger, high tide raises all boats right here, right? So Ben Roethlisberger he's going to improve this offense in general. So I would look for an improvement of all of them.
Right.
But I could foresee the same conundrum that the 49ers gave everybody last year.
Right.
Which guy's going to get the carries?
We got 20 running backs.
Yeah. 20 running backs, all of equal value, right?
Right.
And so, or at least that's how the coach sees it, right?
Right.
So he's going to get more rush yards. He didn't break 470. So he's going to get more rush yards. Yes. Is he going to get work in the passing game? I think with Roethlisberger, he'll get more. I see that going up. So those two things combined, I think you're going to get a better year out of him than you did last year. You're going to get more consistency out of him as long as he stays healthy. But I would caution that you're going to see a fight potentially for plays. So if you get a hold of him, watch his snap count. Watch what's going on there. Is he on the field more? Is he getting more touches? Keep an eye on that. And if you're concerned that he's in a true timeshare, wait for him to get that breakout game, and then I would sell.
Sell high.
Sell. So I would move on.
That's great advice.
Yeah, right at that point. So that's kind of where I'm at. You got anything else to add to that?
Only thing that I'm going to add, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about, is the Ben Roethlisberger shaving video. I mean, the guy's back. All you got to do is you haven't watched it, definitely check it out. That's like he lost 50 pounds just by shaving off that beard of his. I mean, he almost made Fitzmagic look.
He might have had like some
who knows what was in there.
Oh, well, he had like at least Fitzpatrick, he like has the coif and he combs the beard, right? And all that. So it looks nice. But Roethlisberger, last time I saw a picture of him, he looked like a homeless millionaire. So, it was a little scary.
He was looking a little better, and I do like the Steelers. I mean, I'm a Colts fan.
Is Beard Ben better than Shaven Ben, or is clean shaven Ben better than bearded Ben?
You want to see the clean shaven Ben at the beginning of the year. When it gets colder, you get that beard. That's when he gets into that playoff mode.
It's it's hockey.
You gotta look out.
Beard, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right, up next, what you got?
All right, we've got Todd Gurley coming in at 21.
Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Todd Gurley at 21. I'm looking to see where I've got him, and I'm having trouble finding Todd Gurley on my list.
Yeah, he's down on your board.
I've got him back at 27. You've got him obviously a lot higher than I do.
16.
It's 16. So that's why he's in the 21 here.
Yeah.
my concerns for Todd Gurley are nobody knows if he's healthy. I mean, the other day, his offensive coordinator said, well, the only question mark we have is whether he's healthy. And I'm like, you just signed the guy. Like, the offensive coordinator should know.
Right.
So, I mean, it is Dirk Cutter, right? And
Yeah.
so he's not going to – here. Dirk Cutter's my problem, I guess, in the end with Todd Gurley. It's not really that I don't know whether he's healthy. Todd Gurley, if he's healthy, he's a top-tier guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's losing a step a little bit. He's getting up there, a little long in the tooth now for a running back. I mean –
Right. He's still like 25, but for the amount of touches and everything he's got on him in the NFL, he's getting up there.
Yeah. He's got a lot of wear and tear. So he's getting up there in that regard. So I think he's losing a step a little bit. The injuries that he's had have been really big injuries, so that he's actually affected possibly long-term by that. I don't know that he's recovered from his knee injury completely. And so I think that's what Cutter's getting at. But Dirk Cutter's my biggest problem for Todd Gurley. He's the biggest impediment to Todd Gurley because he wants to throw the lights out of that stadium. Yeah. He wants Matt Ryan throwing 1,000 passes for the season, and 500 of them have to go to Hayden Hurst. So, because he is, we have a tight end, we should throw a pass to him. That's how he operates. So the check down isn't necessarily going to go to the running back always. And I feel like that's where I think a lot of people are valuing Atlanta, the running backs, and specifically Todd Gurley off of the Atlanta that we knew before Dirk Cutter got there. Back when
got back there, I guess.
Yeah. So that's my concern with him. That's why I've pushed him out of RB2 territory. I don't foresee him finishing the year in that regard. I think he's going to fall back big time there. So that's why I've got him where I've got him. What do you got? What do you got on him?
So here's how I think you're wrong.
Sure. I may be wrong, but
here you go. I mean, he was with the Rams for 5 seasons. I mean, Gurley, he finds himself in a good situation with the Falcons, in my opinion, just because there's not a whole hell of a lot behind him. I mean, not much behind him. Ito Smith, he's kind of a guy. So, I mean, he was pretty healthy his first 4 years in the NFL. And then last year, he came out with the arthritic knee. I mean, shocking, he signs a huge contract, and all of a sudden he's got an arthritic knee. So he had knee and ankle injuries. Even with that, he still played most of the year. It was just he struggled efficiently. You kind of mentioned it, his rush per attempt, it dropped. So, a part of that could be blamed on the Rams kind of crumbling offensive line. That took a big nosedive from the previous year.
Yeah, the Rams fell apart last year.
They really did. What it was,
and that's why they switched to 12 personnel and started keeping 2 tight ends on the field. That's the only reason Higbee was worth anything last year.
Here's the thing, it's kind of nuts whenever I was looking back on this. Even with all this, Todd Gurley was hurt, blah, blah, he still finished as the 11th best running back last year.
But it's a high-powered offense.
Well, you just said it, though. High-powered offense that took a step back. So it's we have him ranked as a back-end RB2. So we still think he has some potential, at least as a composite, But he's one of those guys where if he could stay healthy for most of the year, become a little more efficient, catch some balls out of the backfield, he could finish as RB1 because he doesn't have that much competition. Or he could be the complete opposite, miss a bunch of games. He's a boomer bust. He's one of the perfect boomer bust candidates on our list. So that's where I'm at on him.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. As far as I think his best days are obviously behind him. So I think RB2 is the ceiling.
And it's like I said, it's crazy.
That's not a terrible ceiling. That's not a terrible.
Oh God,
no! If you can get him at the right spot in the draft, that's not terrible.
While I look up,
where is he going right now? He's
I said before, though, he's only 25 years old. It's nuts.
Okay, so here's, again, early in the year, ADP can be a little unreliable because there's a lot of experimental drafting, right? And right now he is going as the 33rd running back off the board, 8th round first pick. I'm taking him all day there. There's no question. No question.
We don't play in a league like that.
No, we don't. He will not be there in the 8th round in our league.
Talk about some upside.
Yeah. 8th round. Yeah, I'll take him all day long. I'll take him in the 5th. I'll take him in the fourth.
Oh yeah.
I see him as an RB3, so he's a guy that you're going to get into your lineup sporadically. You're looking for him as a potential flex option, in my opinion. But like I said, I see his ceiling as RB2. So 8th round RB2, I'm taking that every day.
Absolutely.
Right, so who do we have sitting there at number 22?
Number 22, we have Mr. Mark Ingram of the Ravens. I mean, we kind of talked about Connor having a loaded backfield, like crowded backfield, I should say. We got Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, draft pick last year, and then they drafted in the second round J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State. So they all kind of presumed to get some action for the Ravens. So, I mean, volume is king in fantasy football. We all know that. And Ingram, he's going to start to lose some of that. I mean, based off of his age. And we still see him probably, or at least I do, getting the majority of like that goal line work. I mean, he ranked 7th in goal line carries last year. So he'll probably get about similar, I would say. I mean, thing is, Lamar Jackson, they keep saying they want to decrease his rushes. So maybe that means maybe a few more on the goal line for Mark Ingram. We'll see. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to replicate those 15 total touchdowns from last year, as well as like 10 running, 5 receiving. So, but we still got him RB2. I mean, this is a run-heavy, high-scoring offense. So, I mean, he's still the name. I mean, guy's still a Heisman Trophy winner. What do you think?
I've had Mark Ingram on my team too many times to count, and it's not.
He's been around for a while.
It's not intentional. It's really not. I did. Well, actually, it was one time I kept him because I had him as like an 8th round pick. He was going to cost me a 6th rounder, and he was going on average in like the 3rd or the 4th round. This is a guy who never gets drafted before the 4th round. He is he's the next Frank Gore. He really truly is. As far as like, if there's somebody who's going to take the mantle of the Infinite One away from Frank Gore,
opposite of the upside, wrong side.
Right now he's 19th off the board, first pick of the 4th round. That's not bad. That's probably where he should be. And so that's not terrible. I think though that you might be able to find some guys in that area that are a little bit better still. So I think you could probably wait till the 5th round to try to take him. Depends on your league. Know your league a little bit. And go from there. But I mean, there's going to be some touchdown regression. He's not getting 10 rush touchdowns. He's not getting 5 receiving touchdowns. That offense is going to change a little bit. Lamar Jackson is going to reduce his rush attempts. I'm sure of it. They don't want to kill the franchise. No. So I see that definitely changing, and maybe that results in some more carries for him. But that offense performed at a historic level. I don't see it continuing again. It's the NFL. They figure things out too fast.
Right.
They're going to figure that out. I mean, Kansas City figured them out sort of in like a quarter and a half, right? So I see that just kind of going away there.
Right.
All right. So let's go ahead to we'll do 23 and 24 kind of at the same time. I mean, we have them right in the same area. Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. So we've got them at 23 and 24 respectively. They're both running backs for Indianapolis. Marlon Mack, I think, is just a guy who doesn't get any credit, right? Yeah. That offensive line is really, really good. And there's no two ways about that as far as running goes. I mean, they pull their guards and they're fast. They're fast guards and they love to hit people. Oh, wasn't it in Indianapolis that they had that video last year of one of the guards like pulling and running and just bulldozing a guy and you could hear him laughing on the audio or something? It was just,
Yeah. It was Quentin Nelson. Just absolute stud. All
rookie
pro
at the time, right?
Last year was his second year. I mean, humble brag, 2-time All Pro already, 2 years in, gonna have it all the way through his whole career. Yeah. Anyways, there was video of him pulling and just yelling and annihilating somebody. The Colts did input that yelling, but it's like one of those things. I'm sure he was probably just loving to hit that guy. So I mean, it is one of those things where it's kind of funny how the composite ranks kind of got him. Like I have them right next to each other as well. I have him 26 and 27. And then that's why we kind of landed on 23, 24. I mean, Mac, he does return as the presumable, I'm going to say 1A to Jonathan Taylor's 1B.
I've got Marlon Mack at 21, and I've got Jonathan Taylor right at 24, actually. So
so it's really close. I mean, you mentioned the offensive line. It's a zone read kind of offensive line, so it's like you have those pulling guards. So I mean, they make some holes. And Marlon Mack is not really known for his pass catching.
Yeah.
But Phillip Rivers, you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Ever heard of him?
That's my concern for Mac, though.
That's the thing too. So there's a third string running back, slot receiver, Nyheim Hines.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're gonna want to get him involved as well.
Well, my concern is that Jonathan Taylor is going to start taking from him, that he's going to start stealing the opportunity. That's why I have the two of them there. Is in the same area. Is that I think that even a half load out of that offense for each of them is going to still be productive and worthy of a start. So I think it'll take Taylor a little while to get there, but I think that Taylor by the end of the year will have become an RB2. So my concerns with Taylor are consistency. If you're drafting him, that's don't pay up to draft him, because the early part of the year you're not going to get much out of him. Right now Mac is the 20th off the board running back. 4th round middle. Okay. And Jonathan Taylor is, in my opinion, a high value, like a really good value right now. He's going as the 37th off the board, last pick of the 8th round. So there's a couple guys right here. We're talking about Todd Gurley and Jonathan Taylor, who we can see at the 8th round, you better be picking them up. There's no reason not to. So, we're not going to hit, I think, the numbers on Mack and Taylor too hard here. The production's been there despite, lack of QB play. Now they have better QB play, so I think the production's going to go up. So that's I think it's going to improve. So that's where we can leave it.
Well, no, and you got a Homer Colts fan. I got a Homer Colts fan. Real quick.
All right, go for it.
I mean, Frank Reich, coach for the Colts, he talked about he wanted to eclipse 2,000 yards last year. They did that with 2130. I think that number is going to go up, and we could presumably see a potential of having 2 1,000 rushers on the same team. I don't know when the last time that happened. It could happen. You just never know. But I agree with everything you said. Like, Jonathan Taylor is a stud.
He's the future for that team.
He is a future for the team for sure. I mean, you run a 4.49. I mean, he's 5'10", 226 pounds. I mean, the last person that ran under a 4.5 at that kind of size was Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So, but it's such an offense that's set up for running backs. That's why we both have them right around that RB2.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm off my Colts soapbox. I'll let you have your Packers time. This is me time. Go away, Kyle. This is me time.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity to homer up our
absolutely
our talks. All right. So thanks for hanging out with us. Come back and listen to us again. We're gonna start getting these up onto Apple Podcasts here soon enough. We've started posting to YouTube, and several of you have found us and subscribed to us. So find us on YouTube at the Fantasy Football Upside. Our Twitter handle is at @FFB_upside. Facebook is at FFB Upside. There is no underscore in that. Or you can just search for us there as the Fantasy Football Upside. And you can reach us via email at thefantasyfootballupside@gmail.com. Feel free to send us questions. We'd love to get to do a Q&A at some point. So we're working on getting our content moved over to Apple Podcasts at some point. Stay tuned for an announcement on that. And once again, please rate, subscribe, review, share across all the platforms. Click subscribe on YouTube here. Hit that bell so that you get notified when we upload new episodes. We're trying to get those up regularly and turned around fast. So thanks for being an Upside fan, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.